Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. For this review we're going to go back to a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of beers from before. So we're going to Eslöv for this one, which is a little bit to the northeast of me here in Lund, and this is kind of a continuation of my sort of lager phase that I'm going through on the channel at the moment. But this one is quite quirky and a little bit different. So like I said, we are going to go up to Eslöv, and we're having a look at another beer from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, or Remmarlöv Farm Brewery, if you want to translate that into English. So this particular beer is called the Akoya. It comes in at 5% ABV, and this one is a German-style Helles beer. So the name, of course, of this beer comes from the hop variety that's used in it, which is a new hop from Hopsteiner in Germany. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment in Systembolaget on the 1st of August 2020, and they've been releasing a good few lagers recently. I think the last one that I reviewed was the Melix, which had a bit of grapefruit in it, if I remember rightly. And then next week in the Tillfälligt assortment they've got two different ones coming out, an organic one and a Rauch lager, so that should be really interesting. I need to see about getting a hold of those for you at some point. So yeah, you will see those reviewed a little bit later too. But yeah, I've been very impressed with how kind of prolific Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri have been over the last little while. The last beer I reviewed from these guys was the Blaze, a New England double IPA. Well, I think it was supposed to be New England, but it was a bit more like West Coast. It was a very nice beer nonetheless. So yeah, I have been impressed with these guys recently, and it's quite nice to see them sort of being a little bit more prolific and putting more things out there. But there have been a good few lagers coming out from these guys over the last little while. I think there was 3 in the July local assortment, if I remember rightly. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. Always nice to try new hop sorts, of course, as well, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. If you do find yourself in Skåne, I do recommend that you check out Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, a very nice, very local brewery to us here. We've got some very good breweries in Skåne these days, actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri before. No doubt you will see some more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri then. So as I've told you before, Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri are based on a farm, as the name would suggest, just outside of Eslöv, to the kind of northeast-ish of me here in Lund, and they've been brewing there since the autumn of 2014, and then in January of 2015 they started selling their beers through Systembolaget as well. So the owner and founder of this company is Håkan Nilsson. Together with his wife Michelle, he started his plan for a brewery a couple of years back, and then the brewery is located on his family farm. So Håkan is apparently the 5th generation of his family to farm the countryside here in Skåne. And you know, these traditional farmhouse ales I guess I should say, were the norm in Sweden until the lagers came in I think the 19th century, something like that. Oppigårds have a very kind of similar story to these guys actually. But the old barn was renovated and a brew house of 1500 litres was installed. They hired Hampus Olofsson as their brewer in August of 2014, and he'd previously worked for Malmö Brewing Company. A very nice guy actually. Hopefully I can get him on a Meet the Brewery segment on the channel at some point in the future. But over the last few years they've been gradually expanding their capacity. For quite a long time it was mainly the winter beers that they were doing, the big red ales and stuff that were getting a lot of attention, if you like. But more recently they have been more prolific and getting more beers out there, so they've been growing. You know, the output from these guys has been a hell of a lot more recently than it was when I first encountered the brewery back in 2016, 2017. But they now have a 3,000 litre brew kit. They invested in new fermentation tanks in the spring of 2018, and this takes their capacity up to a possible 800,000 litres, which is pretty impressive. In 2019 they also opened their summer pub, which was opening up every Wednesday. I think that's not open now because of the whole COVID-19 situation, but they were planning to do some further expansion over 2020, and as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 50 different types of beer. I think it might be about 55 by the time this video airs, so yeah. Interesting little brewery, this one. But as I say, I've had some very, very nice beers from these guys over the last little while. It's a brewery that I always keep an eye out for when it comes to the local Osmoskalig, because they've always got some pretty solid stuff, actually. So yeah, definitely, if you find yourself here in Skåne, then you should check out Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. The beer, probably the best beer I've had from them in recent times, I would say, is the Niblina. Their session IPA, I think, is one of the best session IPAs that you're going to find in Sweden, actually. So yeah, and there are, as I say, there are a good few farm breweries these days. Oppigårds is probably the best known one. You have Vapna Gårdsbryggeri as well. They're doing some really nice stuff, and then of course in the middle of those two you have these guys, Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. There probably are a few other ones. There's a few other ones out in the likes of Gotland and Öland and things like that that are doing some really interesting beers as well. So yeah, a lot of farm breweries, farm-based breweries here in Sweden at the moment. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different things that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as you can see, the artwork of this one is pretty similar to the other ones we've had recently. You know, this kind of style, usually it's different colours and slightly different backgrounds that you have here, but yeah, this one, a 440ml can. I can't remember how much I would have paid for this. I suspect like maybe about 40 Swedish crowns, so that's like, it's about £3.30 or something like that, maybe about, yeah, €4. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, really nicely presented. This one there, you can see the whole made in Skåne thing, which is pretty cool. And then it tells you a little bit in Swedish here as well. So it says on the side here, Akoya is a new hop sort, hop variety from the Hallertau area in Germany. This one depends on... yeah, basically it's saying that different climates can affect the hop plants. This particular variety reduces the water requirements, and it needs less kind of growth protection. So I'm guessing when they say växtskydd, it basically means that they don't need to use pesticides and all this kind of thing to keep the bugs off it. It is a bit of a stronger natural grower. So the hops in this beer are from the first harvest of 2019. So yeah, this is the very first Akoya hop harvest from the Hallertau area. Hallertau, if I remember correctly, is Bavaria, because there's the Tettnang region, and I think that's Baden-Württemberg, if I remember right. The Hallertau and the Tettnanger hops are probably the most famous types of hops from Germany. But yeah, as I said to you earlier, Akoya is a new type of hop. It was just released, I think it's just been released for commercial sale this year, but as they say, the first harvest was 2019. This hop has between 9 and 10% alpha acid. It's supposed to be a substitute for pearl and the Hallertau Mittelfru and things like that. And it's supposed to give you like it's supposed to give you a bit of a kind of green tea sort of tea flavour, spice, green fruit, and also what was the other thing it said on the Hopsteiner website? I forget, but yeah, it's supposed to be quite a spicy but green fruity and sort of tea flavoured hop. So yeah, it should be quite an interesting one, this. But yeah, cool to see that Germany is continuing to develop more and more high alpha acid hops. Of course, these days you've got the Mandarina Bavaria, you have the Hallertau Blanc. I think Hallertau Blanc is also a Hopsteiner hop as well, actually. So yeah, it's cool to see that Germany is experimenting a little bit more, rather than just using the kind of well-known ones, the Hallertaus, the Mittelfrus, the Pearls, the Hercules, and all of these kind of things. So Hersbrucker is the other one that I remember. So yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. As I told you at the start of the video, a 5% German style Helles beer, this one. So basically this one is a kind of blonde lager type beer, and as I've told you before on the channel, I absolutely love my German style lagers. So let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. So yeah. Oh, this looks good. This looks good. So yeah, there's just a little bit left, but we'll put that in a wee bit later just to check in case it is hazy. It depends on what brewery it's from, of course. Different brewers like to do different things. Sometimes the Helles lager, the blonde lager, or as the Czechs call it, the Svetli, is sometimes it can be hazy, sometimes it's not. As you can see with this beer, it poured with a finger of quite a bumpy white head, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few smaller ones kind of going up towards the bottom of the head there. There is quite a steady flow of carbonation on this one, but yeah, definitely a nice kind of bright golden straw colour, which is exactly what you would expect from a Helles lager beer. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is it does look very, very nice. It's pretty much what you would expect. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of the aroma. So let's have a in terms of the appearance, let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Yeah. So when you smell this beer, it really does smell distinctly German, and of course when it comes to you know, the likes of the lager beers, we don't expect them to do anything crazy or whatever. You know, obviously it's interesting to try them with different hops and stuff in them. You know, the Citra Pils, I always mention from Munich Brew Mafia, the Don Limon, beautiful beer, only Citra hops in it. You know, doing things like this with lager beers is very interesting. But yeah, as soon as you smell this one, it's authentically German. You've got that typical kind of you know, you've got a bit of that, I'm pretty sure there is a bit of Pilsner malt in this, just going from the aroma, but yeah, you've got that sort of quite crisp, you know, is it right to call it astringent? You've just got that very, very crisp smelling Pilsner malt coming out of this. You've got a little bit of a kind of wet, sort of white bready quality to this one. There is a wee bit of a bread crusty note to it. There's a little bit of a McVitie's digestive. Yeah, definitely a bit of a McVitie's kind of digestive-y, biscuity quality to this beer as well. But yeah, the malt base smells very, very authentic and very, very German. I guess they probably will. I mean, there are the Viking malt company. There is the Viking malt company here in Sweden, but I would be guessing that they probably have used German malts on this one. You know, the ferry from Germany is just over the water, so probably it comes over on a truck and gets dropped off at the farm. But yeah, pretty sure it'll be German malts in this. Maybe some Czech, who knows. But yeah. This one, the malt base on this, it's actually got a bit of a Pilsner quality to it. It really has the kind of crispness of a Pilsner. Usually a Helles, I mean, if it's a Dortmunder Helles, I think it will be a little bit more crisp if I remember rightly, but the Munich Helles was always a little bit more kind of smooth and bready, if you like. But this beer definitely has a bit of a Pilsner type quality to the malt base. It does have that real kind of crispness. But in fairness, if you think about the likes of the you know, the Augustiner lager beer, one of the classic examples, you know, you've got the Hacker Shores, you have the Spatens and things like that. You know, they do have a level of crispness to them as well, in fairness. So maybe that statement's not 100% correct. But yeah, definitely for me, this one definitely has a little bit of a kind of Pils level crispness to it in the aroma. But yeah, that's the malt base. I think we've said everything we need to say about that. A little bit of the kind of Pilsnery crispness, a little bit of a kind of wet white bready quality to it, a smoother, like a bit of a smoother white bread in fairness as well. Wee bit of a McVitie's digestive, and I think that's all we need to say about it. So the hoppy side of things then. The hops that come out of this one, I would wonder if it is completely Akoya hops that are in this, because it does smell. You know, German hops, they do have some kind of, you know, they've got quite a few similar characteristics regardless of what ones they are. I mean, if you think about the Hallertau Blancs, the Mandarin Bavarias, they still, even on the grassy and floral side of things, they really do smell like the Hallertaus and the Tettnangers, except they've got, you know, more fruit to them. So yeah, with this beer, you do get a little bit of that kind of smooth earthiness out of it that you expect of a German hop. It's got a nice little bit of a smooth kind of floral character to it as well. For me, that's the difference between the Hallertaus and the Tettnangers and then the Czech Sats, Žatec hop. It's the Czech one is just a bit brighter and a bit more kind of spicy, and you've got a lovely kind of light, smooth, grassy character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, helicopter must be out again. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the helicopter. We're going out over Lund again. But yeah, the hoppiness that comes out of this, the green side of the hops for me strikes me as being very, very smooth. It's got a little touch of a herbal quality to it. You can definitely smell those kind of green fruits out of this beer that the Hopsteiner website was saying that you would get. Took at me saying website instead of website. But yeah, this one, you do get a little bit of an appley, peary ester to it. It's a little bit kind of gooseberry-like. It's definitely got a wee bit of that kind of gooseberry note to it. So yeah, apples and pears. But very, very, again, very, very smooth. I don't get so much in the way of kind of spice out of this one. I can see why they would say tea. I really can say that, but tea is not a... I would never really use tea as a descriptor for beer. It's probably just because I don't drink tea. Yeah, maybe now you can hear the helicopter. But yeah, I usually don't drink. I never drink tea. I always felt it didn't really taste it very much, to be honest. But yeah, I can see why people would say there's a bit of tea aroma in this one. It could be the power of suggestion, right enough. I don't know. I don't think I would have picked that up on my own. I probably would have said something like it was a very kind of smooth, leafy, grassy kind of thing. That's probably what I would have said. But yeah, definitely some nice kind of peary, appley esters. I think it really leans more towards a peary ester, to be honest with you. There's a wee tiny touch of a gooseberry note to it, and you've got a little bit of a... There's a very small amount of a kind of grassy, zesty note out of this one. But the thing that really strikes me about the hoppy characters in this is how smooth they are. And as I say, this one's a 9 to 10%. It said between 9 and 10% alpha acid. If I remember rightly, Hallertau Blanc is like 11 or 12, and then the Mandarin Bavaria is about 8 actually, so it's not that high alpha acid, even though it's got a lovely big flavour to it. So yeah, this one, it's kind of interesting that this one does come across as being so smooth, and of course your hoppy bitterness and stuff like that depends when you add the hops in the boil. If you add them earlier, you get more bitterness. If you add it later, that's when you get more flavour and aroma. And this one to me smells as if it's more a kind of late addition. They probably will have put a little bit into this. This won't be a very high IBU lager, just going from the aroma. But yeah, that doesn't matter. It's all about how it tastes. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one. But I have to say, my first impression of the Akoya hops is that they come across very smooth. But I do get that kind of green, fruity element that they're talking about. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. This one is the Akoya, a 5% Helles lager beer from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri here in Skåne in the south of Sweden, using the new Akoya hop from Hopsteiner in the Hallertau region in Germany. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, prost. That's very nice. I have to say I like that. I think that might be the most authentic lager that I've had. Just in terms of mouthfeel and stuff, first impressions, this strikes me as the most authentic lager that I've had from Remmarlöv yet, actually. And I will say the hops come across slightly differently in the flavour to how they do in the aroma. They've got a bit more bite to them in the flavour. And you know, that's something you do have to consider as well, because the Helles lager is not the most assuming. It's a bit more of a modest beer. It's a bit more of a modest style in terms of its aroma compared to others, of course. But yeah, as you can see, even with the last of the can in there, we don't have, we don't have a haziness to this beer. But yeah, just on first impressions, this is very, very nice. It's almost got that kind of clean crispness that you expect from the Japanese lager beers, come to think of it. It's interesting that. But yeah, this is a very nice example of the Helles beer. It does have a little bit of a Pilsner quality to it, in fairness, as well. So yeah, definitely pick up this one and have a go at it, because it's something a bit different, you know, different hops. So yeah, let's break this down then. So, across the middle of your palate you can feel that nice kind of white bready base. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. You can feel a little bit of that more kind of crisp Pilsner sort of quality coming out of the beer, which is nice, particularly towards the back of the tongue, which is very nice. I do like how that goes together. But yeah, as I say, further towards the back of the tongue, you've got a very nice. You can feel that slightly more, not bitey, but bitey and crisp kind of Pilsner malt there. You can feel in the back third of your tongue it's distinctively more grainy as well. But yeah, you get that lovely kind of wet bready quality coming out of this one, which is really nice, I have to say. Yeah, this is a solid. As I say, this is quite a solid lager beer in my mind. I do like how this goes together. Yeah, in the middle third of your tongue then, as I say, you've got quite a crisp kind of Pilsnery malt base to it. You can feel, as you go further into the aftertaste, granted it will get a little bit more kind of smooth and bready, but really it's the crispness, it's that Pilsner malty crispness, I think, that comes out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of carapils in this one as well, because if you go to the very centre of your palate, you can feel There's a nice kind of slightly rich sweet caramel there. It's a bit more sort of biscuity as you move further out from that, and then you've also got a little bit of you also have a little bit of a kind of how would we say, you've definitely got a little bit of a, you know, there's just a wee bit of a kind of more graininess to this beer as well. There's maybe one or two little woody undertones to the beer too, the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, it's a very crisp malt base. It's definitely not one of the more bready Hellas's that you're going to come across. I think if I was blind tasting this beer, I probably would guess that it was a Pilsner rather than a Hellas or a Svetli, as the Czechs would call it. But yeah, this one is really quite nice actually. So it's a thumbs up for me. I like the way the malt base goes together in this one. A really nice, crisp, summer drinkable lager beer. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate you've got a nice little bit of an earthiness there. Quite a smooth earthiness once again, which is typical of your German hops. As you move further forward along the side of the palate there, you can see it does get a little bit more kind of herbal, and then as you reach further forward towards the front corners of the palate, it does have a little bit of a kind of, there is a wee bit of a kind of spicy floral aromatist to this one. It's not too spicy of course, and incidentally this beer is not going to blow the head off you in terms of IBUs and things like that, but yeah, it does have just a little bit of a wee bite to it on the front corners of the palate. Round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you've got that nice oily bubble, where the juicy fruity esters come out of the beer, and yeah, I like how that goes together. So yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. So yeah, oh yeah, the fruit, I'm just trying to pick out exactly what fruits come out of this one. You do get a little bit more of a kind of grassy zestiness coming out of this beer later on. It does almost just get a wee bit spicy on the front of your tongue too. So yeah, despite you do get a bit more of a kind of spicy note, and in fairness you would expect that when this hop is like 9-10% alpha acid. So yeah, yeah, you do get a little bit more of a kind of stronger note out of this. I would say the further you go into the aftertaste, the beer does come across as being just a little bit more bitter, and I can definitely see with this why people describe it as a kind of tea sort of flavour, because it does have that vibe about it, definitely. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, yeah, on that front third of your palate, that oily bubble where those fruity esters will roll out of the beer, it is quite peary in my mind. Yeah. So yeah, it's got quite a nice kind of peary element to it. I can see there is a wee bit of like a juicy sort of green apple. Something like that. Yeah, kind of a juicy green apple-y note coming out of this one. There's a few wee elements of maybe gooseberry or something like that. But yeah, to me, a good blend, a kind of 50-50 balance between pear and apples, and just a wee bit of gooseberry the further you go into the aftertaste too. But yeah, on the very edge of the tongue you can feel a little bit of a kind of lemony, grassy sort of zestiness to this beer as well. But the further you go into the aftertaste, I think some of the more spicy notes from this hop come out. It does have a bit of that kind of tea type vibe to it. Yeah, this is a really solid lager beer for me. I really like this one. As I say, I would probably if I was blind tasting this, I would probably guess it was more of a Pilsner, but in fairness with the mouthfeel, I can see it's got a bit more of an oily character, which you might associate more with a Helles, and I think it does, in fairness, it does smoothen out in the middle of the palate. You will see more of a bready character developing with this one in the middle of the palate too. But I mean, regardless, whatever kind of lager, we can argue about the styles all day, whatever kind of lager it is, I think it's pretty nicely done. And the Akoya hop is definitely quite interesting to me. It maintains that kind of typical German smoothness that you expect, but it's just a little bit more kind of amped up. It reminds me in a way, I remember I had the beer from, I had that beer from Green Gold Brewing in Slovenia. They had the Czech hop in that called Kazbak. This hop in a way reminds me of that Czech Kazbak hop. So it's really cool at the moment to see that these the countries that have, you know, the very established hop varieties are starting to experiment a little bit more. I mean, Germany's been doing it for a while. Czech we don't hear as much about, but I suspect they're doing it. And you know, Green Gold Brewing down in Slovenia, you know, that's a brewery that's based on a hop farm, so they can kind of do whatever the hell they want with all the different hop varieties that they develop. So yeah, but this is a solid beer, this, and I would recommend that you try this. Hopefully this is one they can do regularly. I'm not sure about the hop supply for this, but it would be cool to see this introduced as at least a seasonal or something like that, because I think this probably is the best lager that I've had from Remmarlöv yet. I think this is probably the best one so far. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the other ones have in store for us though. But yeah, thumbs up to Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri on this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, I'd say this is top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. Carbonation does give you a degree of crispness, but this beer, in terms of the style, I find it to be one of the more oily examples of the Helles style. As I say, it does have a bit of a, it's got a really kind of clean vibe to it, so it does come across as more of a Pilsner in certain ways, but we're not going to debate the style forever. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy bitterness, I think this one's about 25, it could even be 30 IBUs. It does have a nice little bit of a spiciness that maintains later on into the flavour. Nice little bit of a kind of crispness to the malt base. There's a bit of smoothness in there, a bit of sweetness, and you've got some nice there's a nice little bit of an oily, slightly juicy, fruity quality to this one as well. So I like how this, I do like how this goes together. Yeah, thumbs up from me for this one. I think Remmarlöv have done a really nice beer for this, but whatever base they're using here, if they can't get the Akoya hop, for example, I would recommend that they use the base, whatever base malty qualities they've done for this. The recipe for this beer is pretty solid, even if they have to change the hop. Could be cool to see them do this lager with like a Mandarina Bavaria and also the Hallertau Blanc as well, if they're into doing the kind of single hop lager beers. Whatever base they're using here, I think is very solid for the style. So yeah, maybe if Hampus is watching, try this with the Hallertau Blanc and do another one with the Mandarina Bavaria as well. I think that could be a really interesting beer for you guys. So maybe we'll see that in a few months, who knows. I think it takes them 3 months. I think they've got to submit the paperwork for a beer 3 months in advance, so maybe we'll see that later in the year. Fingers crossed, we'd love to see that. But solid Helles beer for me. I think this is the best lager that I've had from Remmarlöv so far. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really interesting and quite quirky beer, this one. The Akoya, a 5% Helles lager from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, just outside of Eslöv here in Skåne in the very south of Sweden. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri as well. We will no doubt return to these guys very, very soon. As I said, there's 2 more lager beers coming out next week that I'm going to pick up, so you will see those reviewed within the next kind of month or so, I would say. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Check out my social media, check out Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one was the Akoya 5% Helles lager with Akoya hops, a new variety of hop from the Hallertau region in Bavaria in Germany. Slanja, skål, cheers, make sure you check out this brewery.